Oh, wow. We're back. It's been a while, man.
It has been a while.
It has. I think it's been a good 3 or 4 months since we've done one of these. Probably because people are starting to, go back into the real world. But I thought this beer was a good chance to get some friends on and talk about a beer that was concepted over one of these, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I would say the times have changed, but some things have not, Daniel. I got the umbrella up and the hair down. Like some things stay the same, my friend.
Yeah, you're still outside on the patio.
Outside, haven't been inside in ages.
You've just been sitting here waiting for the next happy hour.
Waiting for the next happy. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. Today is the day to bring back some old friends and talk about a beer that was concepted, this way. And when we had that discussion and concepted this beer, we really didn't have a plan. We just got on here and let it flow. So may I suggest we do it again?
You know what? I think we do that again. Yeah, we just keep it light, keep it casual, have some beers with some friends. But before that, I have to do my housekeeping. I wouldn't be doing the right thing if I didn't, give some updates from the brewery. So, first and foremost, Black Tuesday is almost here. So that's one of the releases everybody gets most excited about every year. Pretty exciting this year because, through all the last year we've been expanding our footprint for delivery. Oh, what'd you have there?
I had a little summer sipper.
Oh, I thought that it looked like a Black Tuesday bottle. So you're but yeah, we're able to deliver to about 8 states now. So, this year's Black Tuesday release probably going to sell out a bit faster than usual. Last year, I think we had 2 states and it sold out. This year, 8 lucky states can order Black Tuesday on the October 26th. Oh, wow. Look we have graphics prepared. There you go. October 26th, 8 a.m. Pacific. Yeah, you can jump on the website and get your Black Tuesday. The other thing, if you want to get access, before that and guarantee it, we are open up for new enrollment to the Reserve Society. So that's our beer club, 12 bottles a year, members only product, members only events, members only draft lists. Oh, look at that. Wow. Kelly is really prepared behind the scenes. This is better. This is better than when I used to do it.
It is. It's a lot better.
Well, you didn't have to say a lot, but
I thought I was on mute. Sorry, Daniel.
I thought I was talking to myself. Okay. Well, look at Jay Torres in the comments calling you out on that Modelo, dude.
I was just washing down a taco, dude. I mean, come on.
Oh, did you go get fish tacos? Yeah, that was the move, huh? Taco Nazo.
You know it. You know it.
Another comment we have, Fegal Fatso. I'm pretty sure I know who this is. I think this is longtime hoarder Terrence. No, you didn't lose your membership. We're gonna get you in somehow. We'll figure it out, dude. We got you. But yeah, let's. Should we bring on some friends? You got any updates for us? Anything going on in your life, Jeremy? What's new with
me? Oh yeah. No, I don't have any.
Oh yeah.
I think. Well, I mean, dude, we're just making a lot of different beers and trying really hard to get these. Well, they're done actually. All the Black Tuesday variant beers for the end of the month for the flight party.
Yeah.
Done. Keith and team nailed those beers. So, I mean, my updates are, like it's business as usual. We're going to make everybody's favorite beer of the year, and we're going to make everybody's least favorite beer of the year. Those are the 2 things I can guarantee you. One of them is going to be really good, and one of them is not going to be what we wanted it to be. And that's some pure honesty for you there. So don't judge me too hard.
I like it. I like it, but I do think it's time to bring on some friends. Let's bring some buddies on. There's some chatter going on backstage on the private chat, and I think Mike just came up with our next collab beer. But yeah, let's. Why don't we start with Mike? Let's bring on Mike. Mike of Mikerphone Brewing. What up, Mike?
What's up, Mike? What up? What up?
What up, Mike? How's Chicago treating you?
It's not as cool as your guys' backgrounds are, but it's the weird fall of the Midwest. Where like we had 0 rain all summer, and now we've got this whole like rain spell. It's like fall and spring flipped, and here we are now. So it's a dreary fall so far, but outside of that, all good. Football's back, baseball's back. We're rocking and rolling over here.
Yeah,
y'all just had the marathon, right? I thought I saw somebody
just had the marathon. Yep, that was last weekend. And unfortunately, I'm a Milwaukee Brewers fan, and we also the Chicago Sox. Those teams both got eliminated last night. So somber on that end. We're still doing all right. The Bears and the Packers meet this weekend, so we're pumped as a group around here for that game.
We got all of our hopes resting on the Dodgers tomorrow. So
yeah, game five, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough day to go into work on a Thursday with the game.
That's really they should reseed the baseball playoffs in those instances, right? 2 100 teams paying, like that's insane.
That was wild.
Yeah,
I mean that should be a World Series battle right there. Those 2 teams are insane this year. Absolutely awesome.
Yeah. Yesterday's game was one bad pitch, and that's the game. That was nuts. Okay, enough baseball talk. Although I'm sure people would stick around to watch us talk shop on baseball, because Jeremy's a big fan, Angels and a Dodgers fan. I don't know how that happens, but he is. Yeah, he's got 2 teams. Yeah,
better than being a Raiders fan right now.
Oh man, I'm not gonna talk about that one. Let's keep that one offline. Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit about, for all the brewery fans on here who don't know too much about you and your brewery? Why don't you give us like a quick rundown? Who you guys are, what you specialize in, and maybe how you got to know Jeremy. That's always a good story.
For sure. My name's Mike Palin, Mikerphone Brewing. My wife and I own the company. We started it in our basement at our house. It was kind of a little hobby project, doing some stuff. I actually learned how to brew beer in college at University of Wisconsin-Madison. And then eventually, once we got a house, we started making some beer. And next thing you know, I got the confidence to open up our brewery and just kind of combine my 2 passions of life of music and beer together, created Mikerphone Brewing, craft beer inspired by music, and just started having fun and making stuff that we would travel all across the U.S. and world to try. So one of the first breweries in the Midwest to make hazies, and we started making the pastry stouts early on and really playing with the traditional styles of beer and having a lot of fun with it. And the funniest thing now is that we're in a spot where we're making lagers and pilsners and Rauch beers and Schwartz beers and all that good stuff now. So like we've completely flipped our game plan of how life is, but it's been fun and it's been very exciting to be part of the culture we're in. And the industry has been, embracive of allowing us to be part of breweries all across the world. And Jeremy and I where did we meet the first time? Was that Fobab? Or did I come out and visit when you guys where we brewed out there? After we met. But yeah, either between a fest or a collab, we met and decided to talk some shop. And
my dog's going off back here, so
you can tell me.
We hung out. I think the first time was in Chicago. We hung out, and then I came out there, and actually got stuck out there. It was in January. I came out and brewed, and got stuck. Couldn't fly home, but it was a good time. And then we just kind of talked since then and done some stuff and had a lot of fun. And when it came time to COVID, I think we all were like, what does COVID mean? What are we going to do during this time where we can't see our friends, can't brew with each other? And thankfully, between the power of Zoom and these kind of apps, we were able to just jump on and communicate and say, hey, guys, we can still write up a recipe together and have our trusted brewers and breweries make these beers and have some fun with it. So it was super cool to have this whole concept come together. And I don't even think it was a collab concept. It was just like, hey, let's just have a mental wellness check and see how you guys are doing during COVID and what's new with you guys. And next thing you know, like Derek jumps on and we're like, hey, let's make a beer together out of this. And here we are today.
Yeah, I think I don't necessarily remember where I met Mike for the first time, but I do remember I had a beer in my hand and he had one in his.
And then we probably had a shot of Malort.
Oh, yeah. Yep. One in Chicago. Then you do.
There you go. All right, let's keep this thing rolling. Let's. Who's next? We got Derek. We got Derek behind the scenes. Derek and Corey. Derek and Corey. Pull them up.
Hey, what's up,
Hey,
Derek?
guys.
What's up, Corey?
Coming to you live from the attic of Moksa.
Our very
Back on.
organized office.
Yeah.
Cool.
So Derek, I don't believe I've met Corey before. What's up, Corey? How you doing, man?
Oh,
I think we met in passing at like CBC a couple years ago or something,
Yeah.
but you know how those are.
it was
Yeah,
at Trumer. Trumer, you met Corey during SF Beer Week. We were both-
Yeah. Okay, the CCBA event.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, right on. Good to see you, Corey.
Yeah, you too.
And I'll remember when I met you. Yeah.
Do you?
Brewery anniversary, maybe? I don't know.
Oh, more than likely, yeah.
Yeah.
You're always a popular tent at our anniversaries for sure.
Cool. I mean, you want to give us the rundown on Moksa, man? I know you started in San Diego, Abnormal, right? And now you're up in Sacramento, I believe. So, you know, for all the, I'm sure a lot of brewery fans know you, Derek, just because you're big in the SoCal scene. But you want to kind of run through, you know, what's up with Moksa, what you guys are up to. Yeah, let the people know.
So 2018, Corey and I and a couple other partners started a Moksa Brewing Company up in Rockland, California. It's just 25 minutes out of Sacramento. So it's pretty much Sacramento area. And we've been brewing as much beer ever since. We took over an old brewery, added more tanks, and we're brewing all styles of lagers, West Coast IPAs, hazies, big on the pastry stouts. And just right now, we've been starting to have our barrel age program come to fruition, and we're starting to have a lot of offerings coming out of that program, partly be inspired by the brewery and all the treatments that you guys have done.
Yeah.
Corey, anything else?
Yeah, I mean, just it's been a 4-year ride. We both left like head positions to join forces and start this place, and I feel like we never slowed down since. And it's been a lot of fun to start something from the ground up. And despite COVID, we've caught our footing again, and it's been good.
Nice, man. How'd you guys meet? Just out of curiosity, like how did the connection happen to spark Moksa?
It was sort of put together by our main owner, New. He'd been a longtime friend of mine, and then got to know Derek, and he sort of like wanted to start this brewery, and sort of just paired us up, knowing that we were both knew what we were doing. I guess we just got lucky that we work well together, but it's been good. Just good luck.
Awesome, man. Cool. I mean, let's talk beer. Jeremy, do you have the collab beer on you? You want to talk a little bit about what we did and maybe what we did a year ago and how this whole thing came to fruition?
Yeah, it came to yeah. Well, first of all, we never made a beer like a production beer with Derek. I think when Andrew Bell was at the brewery, Derek, you probably came up and brewed with Andrew, I'm sure.
Yeah, like it was like we made like 4 different beers together, but never one that was packaged. I was like, can we just do a package one now?
So never a production batch, but we did. I think we had talked about it at a beer festival one time that was the case. That it did a bunch of 3-barrel batches, but never anything that made it package. And every year during our anniversary party, we do a different collab beer. We have somebody in from out of town, and we do a collab beer. And a couple years ago, Mike here, the gentleman with the baby blue color, which is synonymous with microphone, we brewed a beer together called, is it Icky Thump?
Oh yeah,
Icky Thump, and then another one later called Sticky Thump. But anyway, we were gearing up for anniversary party before COVID happened. And when COVID happened, it kind of wiped out our anniversary party, which kind of wiped out a collab beer that we had a hole for in the release schedule. And yeah, we started doing these virtual happy hours, and I think Sticky Chunk came out right around that time, or right around our anniversary time. So we got a hold of Mike and asked him to do one of these virtual happy hours with us. We thought of Derek as well, and we thought of like, hey, let's talk stouts, let's do something weird, let's sell some beer and talk with some friends. And organically, I already knew that I had that hole in the schedule, so I was kind of trying to push this opportunity to come up with a beer idea, from which we did. And we quickly went and brewed this beer, which is called Three's Co. Company. This is the non-barrel-aged version. We put this in bottles, and we also put it in cans. The cans are all gone, but we still have some bottles left. But this beer in itself was, especially for a stainless beer, one of our favorite beers last year. Absolutely loved this beer. I thought the mouthfeel was incredible. It's supposed to be like a coconut cream pie. It was supposed to be the idea. We took, dude, I feel like Derek was the one who was saying to push the coconut, and we're at £1 per gallon of coconut, a blend of desiccated and toasted. So a little, like, I wouldn't say a little higher, like way higher amount of coconut than we normally use. Is my audio okay?
Yeah, you're good, dude.
Okay, cool. I hear some feedback, but it must be coming from somewhere else. But so I digress. Like, anyway, we absolutely love the beer, and through that, Derek hooked us up with a new vanilla supplier that we absolutely love. We created some issues for ourselves in a bright tank with 1,200 pounds of coconut. Learned some things there. So even doing a collab beer without these guys on site, we learned a lot of things. And then just like the beer was so good, we decided to brew it for barrels and release it this year. And I think the bourbon barrels really take this thing to the next level. One of the other things we did with this beer is we brewed a pilot. I said I don't want to talk about oat milk, but I'll talk about it just briefly. We brewed a little 3-barrel pilot of oat milk blend into this fermentation, which I think helped deliver the body to carry the coconut. But really just a fantastic little beer that's a little bit different than a brewery beer. I think the brewery over the years definitely developed a style of its own, and there's a lot of unique brewery beers that are uniquely brewery beers. Like if you smell it, it's a brewery beer. If you taste it, quite often you can tell it's a brewery beer. But I think what's inspiring to me as a beer maker is seeing what the younger breweries are doing, and then trying to be inspired by them. And so we've changed a little bit of the way, not only that we look at our stout brewing, but most of our stouts traditionally were all Belgian inspired stouts, so we have a lot more sweet stouts now, and I think that it gives us a really good blending stock of barrels to use for different things. And so we're doing some hybridization blending. And anyway, I digress again, but I just opened this can, and before I even picked it up to my nose, I could smell the vanilla and the coconut, and I think it turned out really, really well this year, for sure.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's first off, it's an honor to have my logo on the can and bottle with the brewery logo, and then obviously with Moksa too. But it's one of those things where I grew up tasting brewery beers and Goose Island beers, and those are the two beers that kind of drove me into wanting to make barrel aged beer. But when you start off a small brewery, you don't have the capital or the space to do a huge barrel aged program. And if you do, you maybe get 4 barrels or 8 barrels, and you got to turn them quickly. As time has grown on, and we've built up our space and get that, we'd be able to do it proper. And I've been out to your barrel space, and just every time I walk in that room, I'm still enamored by the smells and just all the barrels in there. And you realize how important it is to go through the different types of beer that go into wood, the different types of wood, and the time. And we all know what the original version tastes like. It was great. But like you said earlier, it's like that extra layer. And maybe it's not pure oak or pure barrel that you're tasting. It just blends everything to this next level that is absolutely delicious. It's a fantastic beer.
I agree. I think, Mike, I think I saw something. You did a little video or something on Instagram or something just in the last couple of weeks, and you were kind of standing in front of your barrels and talking about your barrel program. Am I correct when I remember that?
Yeah.
Weeks ago? because it could have been last year.
Yeah.
I did a couple of weeks ago. But I think the first time I was out at your place, granted you've expanded I think 3 or 4 times since I was out there the first time, but I think you might have had like 12 barrels or something like that.
Yep.
And what do you have now? Because I know you've really been working on that program.
220.
Yeah, see, I was thinking, like, man,
it's been a lot of fun, and actually going down to Kentucky and tasting bourbons and starting to select barrels and select bourbons and kind of knowing more about that and getting a relationship with cooperages. It's been awesome to kind of really see what all that means. And so that video I posted was we had consumers purchase merchandise throughout the summer. 10 of them were picked to come in and do a blend pick with us. So they tasted through 20 some barrels, and they unanimously voted on 4 barrels that got picked for a blend that will then be submitted into Full Bev this year. Nice. So just learning from all the stuff we learned from going to Kentucky and going to distilleries and seeing how they do their pick process was eye-opening to me. And just trying to implement that kind of process and that experience into our brewing experience was what we wanted to do with that.
Awesome. Derek, how many barrels do you have?
I know we need to go to Kentucky now.
Wow, let's go.
But hey, after tasting this, this is I think the most coconut and vanilla forward beer that you guys have done, or at least that I've tasted.
Sure.
I don't know where it falls in line with you guys, but it's pretty like treatment forward, and that's just a testament of Jeremy and the team of willing to use that much coconut and vanilla and letting it really shine.
Yeah, we Derek, this year we actually bought a commercial oven to toast our coconut because we'd been renting one 3 or 4 occasions a year. We'd rent one for a couple days, and then we finally said, F this, man, we're gonna go buy one. And it's really opened up like the flexibility to be able to do things. It's not such a daunting task anymore to have to toast coconut for 20 hours straight. You can actually take some time and do it when you need to.
We bought an oven that we do our nuts, our coconut, all that stuff, because we used to do it like in a bingo basket and just roast them over flame.
Yeah.
It's a full day process for a little bit. It would probably take us 2 or 3 days to do what we want to do for our beers. I couldn't imagine for a beer this would probably be a full week long. So you got to invest in the process, but using the right ingredients and using the right amount of ingredients pays off for sure. I mean, this is, like you said, Derek, it is straight up as it comes out of the can, vanilla, coconut, and then it's got a lingering kind of sweetness, thickness that comes from, like, you get that nice sugar content off the toasted coconut, and it just continues through all the way through.
Absolutely.
Now we need an oven over here now.
Yeah, yeah. We had a drum roaster for a while until we loaded it up with, I think, pecans, and the whole thing just ignited in a huge plume of fire from the
We've been there.
Outdoors,
right? Still has like the char, the black char all the way around it. It's nuts.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
All right, it looks like we have a question that has been asked. Okay. How do you figure out how much of each beer to use in blends of different beers? Yeah, that's a question.
Well, it's a good question.
It's a great question.
I think for one, you're always trying to make something that that your palate wants, But I could just speak for my experience at the brewery. We made a lot of beers in the past, and a lot of blended, unadjuncted beers, throughout 13 years or so. It's not really easy to come up with a great idea. If you're like, I'll take some of this old ale and put it with this bourbon barrel stout, and then you'll run into somebody that'll say, oh, like the beer you guys did in 2009. Like, oh, shit, that is the same beer that somebody else already did here, So I think if you've made a lot of those kind of beers, you have to be careful you're not repeating yourself. But if you haven't, like, you should let let your taste lead you the way. For instance, I think as things come back around again, barley wine kind of never really went away, but I feel like it has its day, every other year or so. And we have a kind of a blended barley wine coming out in December that we made with Three Chiefs Brewing. And, the idea there was to be very like stout forward in a barley wine. So I think, you got to play to what you think people want, plus what you think the new trend is. And you blend accordingly. It's really easy to blend a beer that nobody wants. I have a lot of those under my belt. But very few that actually land in a place where people are like, that's an amazing thing. It's really hard to get that without adjuncts, but it can happen. What do you think, Derek?
So every quarter we do a tasting, and we have certain beers that we want to come out with certain treatments, or it's just to taste barrels and see if we could do a single barrel release, which we're small enough to do those and still satisfy a lot of the customers that are looking for those type of beers. But we'll go into our tastings with an idea, a treatment in mind, and pick for that. And our whole thing is balanced with coconut, vanilla being a sweetening ingredient, and then we want to pick out barrels that have kind of like more of an assertive barrel characteristic, so it's able to balance out, not be overshadowed by the ingredients. So it's really just designing products from the concept of what it will be at the end, and then selecting barrels for that.
Yeah, Jeremy, you probably have it a lot harder than we do because you're doing a large number of barrels going into a blend, I would imagine. Whereas probably the largest one we ever done is like 4 or 5 barrels. So it's just a matter of tasting them and, assessing. This one has a lot of tannin, this one has a lot of booze, this one has a lot of sugar. Average all those out, we're probably where we want to be. But it's so few. We only have 100 barrels here currently, give or take. So it makes the decisions a little easier.
Sure. But you lack those decisions are much more powerful than too, right? Because
True.
That one barrel's 25% of the blend, so like I think there's some pros and cons to that for sure. Some freedom, and then a little bit of like, this is a little bit of a risk, I'm sure.
Yeah, we've only had a few dud barrels so far, luckily, that we've had to get rid of. But luckily, the stouts we put in have really been doing well for us so far.
What I think is interesting with blending in general is, and it is hard to see on a smaller scale, but you could definitely see it in a bench trial scale, when you're just using a graduated cylinder or something. But, if you have like 100 physical barrels that you're trying to blend, and you find this really weird barrel that normally you would just throw out, you're like, no, this isn't good. But in that blend, it actually has a place, where it actually does make the beer better. I think those are kind of interesting opportunities. You got to be very careful. You're not just doing it for volume, because that can really burn you. But I learned that in winemaking, that in wine you don't really call it acetic, but that one barrel of wine that had a little bit of VA, or volatile acidity, it was the thing that made the whole blend pop. It was like that one little thing that was like, okay, we're good. Now this wine's not going to hold up for 10 years in a bottle anymore because I put this in there, but for right now it's perfect. So I think you got all those little tricks in blending, the same way that with in a barrel blend with 4 to 5 barrels, like the best barrel of beer you've ever made goes into those other 3 or 4 barrels and turns that into the best blend that's ever been made. Like it's the power can be on either side.
All right, so that's going to lead us into another question then. Okay, have you ever had any unexpected results from blending? So, I mean, I know it, like on a small scale, like you said, on like the bench trials, we'll do it like in a very small scale to represent the full blend. But have you ever, I guess the question is, have you ever, once it's gone through like our full production scale, or for any of you guys, once you've actually put it out there, is it something different than what you expected? Mike, you want to take this one? You look like you're ready to answer, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the We Blends a Lot experiment, we learned a lot about people's palates, which is awesome, right? So everyone kind of went through and tasted each barrel, wrote their notes, next barrel. We did 5 lots, so we did that 4 times, so 20 different barrels. And we would talk about them, and the consensus was pretty much there on their palate taste of what they got. But there was some that we tasted, me and Mike, my head brewer and blender, we tasted through, and we were like, there's some notes that we know that just don't pass through. And we were curious to hear what consumers thought of that. And they were like, yeah, so this one has this and this. And I'm like, no, we get green pepper in this. And for us, these don't pass. Like, but they're like, try this. And they're like, oh, all right. So just it's listening to palates, understanding what different palate likes. For us, though, we've been pretty unanimous in our blend where we will go blind in our group of 5 of us. And when we blend, it's just full disclosure, write down what comes to your mind, let it go, and those will be the notes we go through. And then we blend them together, and then we taste it, and then it's kind of just let it go after that. There's no really science, it's just palate based. We've had a few barrels, like Jeremy talked about, you just have to dump. Like, after a certain time, it's just going to turn. And it's like the pepper, green pepper, spice. Like, there's certain things that just will not turn and be good in a blend. But we haven't gotten deep into the whole old ale, stout, barrel aging blending yet. And I'm excited to get to that point yet. We've got a few barley wines in barrels that are special projects that we've got going on. We've got nothing that we want to do a blend yet. So that might be a cool blend to have you guys come out and do here.
Oh, hell yeah.
3, come out, taste your barrel racks, and do a blend of different stouts, barley wines, and maybe we brew a beer that goes in a barrel after this into that. So
That sounds rad.
let's lead into another 3-way class.
We would love that.
Yeah.
I think I'm muted. Yeah, no, that was a solid answer. Derek, Corey, you guys, I know your barrel program's a little bit on the smaller side. And you're saying, not a ton of barrels right now to blend, but have you ever? I mean, I don't know if you have, but the question's out there.
Yeah, I think we prevent any surprises by pre-blending while we're tasting and doing those bench trials and seeing how different barrels play with one another. But we don't know at that time how it works with other ingredients. And that's kind of like the guess and our educated guess of how it's going to turn out with this much amount of this particular ingredient. So that's where the guessing kind of comes in of, all right, we got the blend, we know what that's going to taste like. And there's roughly 45 to 51 gallons in each barrel after the course of 16 to 24 months. So we know that. After that, it's like how much coconut, how much cacao, like what are we doing so that it produces a product that we're going to be proud of at the end. And I think that's where that expectation is kind of like in limbo because we don't know exactly how it's going to do, but we also have a process in which we could taste as we go and we could add or we can, and we could balance things out down the road. I think one example that we have when we're blending and we're treating is that things could be too sweet or they could be a little too sharp. So then we could add more vanilla or we can cut it with coffee and kind of build those layers and at the same time balance it out to be a more drinkable product.
Yeah, we found the same thing where like we used to go into barrels at a time with adjuncts in mind. And then knowing now after tasting barrels, you go, oh no, we can tinker them to fit what we want on the backside. And so like One Man Wrecking Machine is a beer that has cacao nibs, vanilla, and cinnamon. And it's like, let's let the barrels kind of dictate what it's got up front, and we can add into it as we need to get the final product that we want. So
a lot of times we don't know what a beer is going to be until after we taste it out of the barrel and then kind of work around that to build it from there.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I found, and it's been nuts, is like all barrels are so different. And that's whether they're on the floor, up top, or who they're from. I mean, you can get such drastic different notes out of barrels, even in the same batch of barrels. So you got to let them go through their process, and time will dictate what they end up tasting like, where they are, the temperature, all that good stuff. And you got to let it kind of show you what it's going to be at the end of the day, and then figure out what works with it. And Craig lately has been like massive peanut butter to me. Like, you can't get that natural peanut butter out of anything else. I'm like, Elijah Craig's just nuts out of that. Heaven Hill, vanilla coconut. You know, it's just you understand what these barrels do, and it's fun to play with that afterwards.
I don't know if you guys noticed this as well, but we'll taste through barrels, and we'll have the same base, same type of barrel, but the two on the rack on the bottom will taste the same. The two on the rack above it will taste different, and just those like 3 feet difference would make a difference in the final blend or the final taste 16, 20 months later. So it just
100%
deviates over time.
Yep.
To the point where over the course of a year and a half, they will taste different, but similar with the same elevation. And, you know, that's what we noticed. I don't know if you guys have noticed the same as well, but definitely just like the height in which it's stored over time played a difference.
Yep.
Sure. I think the vicinity in our cellar, like the vicinity of where the barrel is at in the cellar, if it's closer to the roll-up door, you know, that gets opened all the time, and there's a few warm spots, you know, and then there's a few
windows.
Some few wet spots, you know. So a lot of that stuff does come into play. I think that you know, easier to tell like what's going to happen with a clean beer than it is with a sour beer, in my experience. You know, I remember, you know, famously, you know, telling a coworker at the brewery that, you know, we're going to bottle this beer, but we got to bottle it 2 months early. It's going to develop diacetyl. And, you know, he's like, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, oh, it's going to happen. I guarantee it, you know. And it was Tart of Darkness, a sour stout. And it was like 300 barrels of beer in 750s. So obviously this is 6 years ago, when you could actually sell 750s. But it was 300 barrels of that, and it developed diacetyl. We couldn't ship when we wanted to ship, and I was kind of like, I told you so, man. Like, you can't see it, you know, but I know it. I know it's going to happen, you know. So it helps to know what you're working with, but you don't always know. And you know, that's how you run into those problems. That's how you learn. That's how you try to guard against it. But
I think this is a good transition point. We have some questions coming in from it looks like YouTube. So adjuncting. We were talking a bit about how playing with the adjuncts, you know, after the barrel aging is the move. And it looks like people are really curious about some of these adjuncts. So behind the scenes, Kelly, pull something up. I see a few here. There we go. Oh, here's a fun one. What adjuncts have you tried in pastry stouts that just haven't worked? I feel like we can go around the horn on this one. I'm sure everybody has their take on this. Jeremy, you want to kick this one off? What hasn't worked for us?
I don't have an answer right now.
Everything's worked. I love it.
No. I think maybe the ingredient didn't work. Maybe our approach was bad, or I don't know. Let one of these other guys go. I'll think of something good. I'll throw myself on the sword. I promise.
Maybe like pistachios. We didn't add enough. Maybe because of the price point. We're like, hey, this is how much we can afford, and we added in, and it's like, I mean, you get a hint of it, but it's not what we're known for as far as like the big flavor impact that we're used to dosing it with. So maybe that was just underwhelming in a sense.
One we tried was we had this great idea to use coconut flour in a stout, because we're always trying to figure out how do we infuse more surface area contact, get more flavor infusion. So we dumped a whole bunch of coconut flour into this beer, recirculated it, and then figured we'll just run it through the centrifuge, clean it all up, no problem. And that was the messiest, sludgiest, like disaster of a beer. I think we centrifuged it like 4 times, trying to get all that particulate out. There was like coconut fat caps on every bottle, even after all that. So we're sticking to flakes from now on.
For us, it was raisin. Raisin just, it's really, really hard to work with. We got a raisin puree that came in, worked great in the boil, came through, it tasted awesome, and just went away. And like, we're not adding that back in the backside. It was just a mess. And so it was, and then all the raisin extracts that you could ever think about smelling were garbage. So we're like, nope, just couldn't do it. So we tried to do like the whole like oatmeal raisin cookie thing, and it just never came through.
Is that the raisin puree that's kind of like a paste? Like a
Yeah.
brick?
Yep.
Yeah, that stuff is hard to work with. I'm trying to think of something that just didn't work, and I can't think of something. I can think of all the processes that were, we knew better and we still did it. We didn't have a conical tank available, so we put it in a dish bottom and put a bunch of peanut flour in there and then racked beer on top of it. And then, we didn't like the flavor, but then when we pulled the beer out, there was just a fucking cake of powder on the dish bottom that never got incorporated. Over adjuncting, in a conical with cocoa powder and lactose and, just all kinds of, banana powder instead of puree, just all these powder things. And then kind of like you guys just said, Moksa there, like creating this centrifuge nightmare, that you're just constantly losing beer or slamming your centrifuge full of powder and jamming it up. And we've had that. We've taken our centrifuge apart 3 times in like a 48-hour period. So most of the things that don't work are, for us anyway, are
Wait, we did that.
What did that?
Yeah. So
we've done it with peanut flour. We've done it with marshmallows. We've done it. We've done some stupid stuff. But again, this is how you learn. And I hate to say it, but usually these are mistakes that have been made before. But that's, we have very few brewers, unless they own the brewery, stay anywhere for 10 years. So we're always training new people, and sometimes the young cats don't believe the old dogs. Like we made those mistakes before.
We have another question. I know we were talking barley wines earlier. So here's a barley wine question, and maybe it's not even true, but Bruce Ellis, I actually don't think it's true. We made what was it, creme brulee? That was pretty good.
Yeah, that was fucking awesome.
So Bruce Ellis is asking, how come barley wines typically don't lend themselves to adjuncts? Do you guys agree, or is it hard to work?
I would skip to something Derek and Corey were saying about like the beer itself should lead you towards the adjunct. So in our case, like we made a beer earlier this year with 3 Sons, and it was a creme brulee treated barley wine. But that barley wine was showing huge notes of toffee and caramel. It was easy. It was a no-brainer, like turning that thing into a creme brulee. It was like the beer was halfway there, So anyway, that's my thought. Like there, you can find a stout that doesn't really want ingredient, but that's a little easier one. But for me, if the beer is lending itself somewhere, the same reason that if you're drinking or tasting lambic style sour barrel aged beer and it's showing a lot of stone fruit, like, are you going to take that one and throw raspberries in it, or is that the one you're going to throw peaches in? Like, I would throw peaches in it, So, I don't know. That's just what I was thinking.
I think the roast and the chocolate flavors in a stout can open up more of a range of ingredients, but I still think barley wines can be adjuncted or treated. It's just the stouts have a little bit more assertiveness to play with the other ingredients.
Yeah, a lot more to work with to achieve balance in the beer, whereas barley wine's a little more one-dimensional maybe, and might be harder to play off of. Not to say that it couldn't work, though.
Yeah, what works well in barley wines is barrels. So
That's right.
right.
That's right.
Yeah, those are delicious.
Exactly.
Well, for instance, we had a barrel.
The barrels just kind of run the show right now. I mean, we've actually moved away from a lot of our adjuncting stuff to just let the barrels shine. And so with barley wines, so we're doing this collab with Goose Island right now, where they made our stout, we made a barley wine. We're bringing together as a collab set. And just leave them alone. Let them play in the same barrels. It was the same yeast in both of them, but different, grains, and just show how those two different things work separately. And barley wine has got its own little life, right? But it's still a delicate beer. Where stout we can kind of beat up and play and have fun with. I think barley wine is still delicate in our world, at least in our microphone world, where we don't want to mess with it. We kind of just want the grains to get into wood and play with the wood and kind of show us what's going on there. So we don't usually touch it often, but I can see how if something came out and you're like, I just did a lambic tasting at Funk Factory Gooseria about a month ago, and I went into that thing like I know how to taste barrels and this and that, and I was completely punched in the face immediately. I was like, whoa. He's like, oh, that's too bitter for you? I'm like, what am I tasting? And I'm like, what's that one? Like, oh, that's too acidic? And he finally realized like where my palate was like, I went to the top barrels and tasted those as Buffon says, slutty peaches. I tasted that. And I was like, let's roll with that. And it's just, barrels to me will tell you what's going on. And sometimes you don't have to mess with it. Just let them shine.
Yeah, some of our favorite stouts we've done in the last couple of years have not been adjuncted at all. It's actually kind of nice, It's kind of nice to not be hit in the face with too many adjuncts, and that makes room for the adjuncted beers. So,
for sure.
All right, we have another question that's more about the barrels. So, Dave, good old Dave Jankowski is asking. Just to simplify it, if we do have an adjuncted beer that comes back year after year, how important is it to use, the same brand of barrel, or does that even play into your thought process when creating next year's version of it? Does that make sense? That makes sense.
Yeah,
right?
no, it totally makes sense. I'll take that from a brewery perspective, and from the way I look at things. Like, no, I don't. Well, first of all, like any beer like Aloha Friday, Mash and Spumoni, we don't brew those beers. I brew the base beers. They go to barrel. Sometime between 14 and 24 months, we start tasting 30 batches of each of those beer and pulling out the barrels that we make a blend with. So, Aloha Friday, that's a Black Tuesday. Mash is one of our barley wines. So no, we basically fill, my usual suspects for barrels are Buffalo Trace, Heaven Hill, Four Roses, Willet, and some other random Heaven Hill specialty shit. But basically we fill all that stuff, and I don't look at it per beer. I just look at it as far as building a blending stock for base beers. And each one of those barrels, like Mike was saying earlier, has its own set of nuances that it lands. For instance, Buffalo Trace doesn't spend very long in barrel, so Buffalo Trace barrels show a lot of oak. There's a ton of oak. So if you need that piece in your blend, I pull those barrels. But I don't have to. I don't look at it that way. I look at it that way for only like really high end specialty beers. And then generally speaking, the size of the brewery, the size that we are, we don't disclose what barrels we use because we're big enough to get sued. And we have to ship our beer all over the country, so I can't really tell you this is an 11-year-old or 30-year-old Heaven Hill barrel. I mean, I have a bunch of those in my cellar and they're fun, but I can't really disclose it. So that's my take on that.
I don't think you could make the same barrel-aged beer twice if you tried. There's just too many variables there.
Yep.
Good point. That's also the freedom of the vintage, right? Like, what's the point of having a vintage, a beer that's not year round, and then not having the get out of jail free card to say like, yeah, it's different this year,
And let's be honest, nothing as good as batch one, right?
Yeah, exactly. Except for this one. This one's better. Batch 2 is better. I really do. So.
All right, I think this is going to be our first ever happy hour that we keep it to a happy hour. So we have one last question, like directly from Mike, from Thomas. So he says, Mike.
Oh, boy, Tom.
Oh man.
Have you ever thought about putting a barrel in the back of the Blazer? I'm assuming you know this guy. Driving to California, then picking up a barrel from Derek, then driving them to the brewery. This is.
I love it.
Yeah.
Are you a Blazer guy?
I have a 1972 Blazer that was just redone. So yeah.
Oh, nice.
I can bring it out.
This Blazer.
That's California weather truck. No top on it. We'll cruise around.
Yeah.
Wait, Mike still owes us a visit from a football bet pre-COVID.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's no expiration on that, but we still want him to come out. If Tom comes with you as well.
Yeah, we got another trip out to Voodoo then. So
yeah,
I love this idea, and I've always thought about this whole like collaboration where you take something from one brewery to the next brewery, then move it on to the next brewery and the next brewery, and do this whole chain link brewery. Let's make it happen, Tom.
Love it.
Oh, there we go. All right, so before we climb off, then when's the next collab, guys? What are we doing next? What's no pressure.
I owe Derek a trip out there because of the bet we had, but I also like the idea of you guys coming here and doing a blend of some random stuff and making that come to life. So we got a couple different collabs in the works, right?
All right, we're going up to Chicago, and then we're coming up to Sacramento.
Done.
Hey, real quick, I know that we're not sending very much of this beer out, but we're sending some kegs out, right, Daniel?
Yeah, for full
so we have kegs going to Derek and to Mike, right? For events.
Kegs
going
both
places. Yeah, it'll be great for our local customers because we would do a lot of collaborations outside, and it's like, oh yeah, sorry, only released in Florida. Oh, sorry, only released in New York. So it'd be really cool to get one of the outside collabs be brought in and be that only that 1/6 still that people could come out for. It'll get people excited.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Yeah, whereas like GABF's a big event in Colorado, you got the other events in the world. Like FOBAB is a huge event in Chicagoland, so we're there. We're close to the airport, so we try to build that whole week up. And so we're going to do a special private event dinner tasting on Tuesday and showcase that beer as part of that dinner tasting.
Awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll have to go out for that one, Jeremy.
Yeah. Dude. No, I wish I could.
I think we're pretty much out of time. Thanks for coming on, guys. It was great talking to you guys again. Excited for the next stuff to come up. Jeremy, you want to give us some closing words for this?
I just want to say thank you to Derek, Corey, and Mike. Thank you guys for supporting us and working on this idea for a beer and letting us do it with you guys. I really wish we could have done it in person, but at this point, I feel like the brewery owes you guys that visit. So anytime we could make it work, we should come. I'd love to come do that with you guys.
Let's do it.
Right on, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, cheers, guys. I think you guys make fantastic beer, and I think most of the people that love the brewery feel the same way because they like this beer a lot, and I think they like it because it's the brewery. But I'm pretty sure that they're checking some boxes and ticking some Mikerphone and Moksa beers as well. So,
cheers, guys.
Yeah, cheers.
Thank you.
Take care, y'all.
See ya.